All right, so yesterday they released a teaser for the new Bill and Ted movie. You could call it Bill and Ted 3. It's called Bill and Ted Face the Music. I kind of teased it up a little bit on a video yesterday where I was talking about some of my new favorite stuff that's on YouTube, and that had just come out. I was taking a closer look last night, and there's a lot of interesting details in this, and I thought with the fact that I'd seen both of the two previous movies crazy number of times, I thought it'd be kind of fun to go through this and find some of the details and just sort of point it out. Okay, first of all, Orion Pictures went bankrupt in 1995, and I have not seen this logo anywhere in a long time, but I don't know if this was like an old intellectual property that they still own, and that's why their logo is at the front, or if this is just kind of like a throwback thing. Probably the former. I doubt they would just do that as a throwback, but that struck me right off the bat. It's like, ooh, Orion. That was like, it was a throwback retro nostalgia thing that happened like right off the bat for me. Okay, so we start things off here at a concert. There's not a whole lot to point out except for maybe, there's like a camera crew down there. Okay, so this quick shot of them playing the concert. Look behind Ted, right up here. I think that's his dad, because his dad was a cop, and it looks like his dad from the previous movies. Yeah, that was played by Hal Landon Jr., and I just had to look it up to make sure he's still around. He's definitely still around. So yeah, I think that might be him. And what is he playing there? Is that an oboe, a clarinet? That looks like a clarinet. So for whatever reason, it looks like Ted's dad is playing clarinet on stage with them. And then when you look over to the right over here, it looks like an Asian woman in traditional attire playing a flute. So maybe this is like they bring all the peoples of the world together for a big concert of some kind. Or maybe that's a historical figure that they pick up from ancient China or something. I don't know. Also, Ted has the smiley face on his guitar strap, which is clearly a callback to the jacket that he wore in Bogus Journey. So they're teasing that these guys are still playing shows, but they're playing shows in like open mic nights. I mean, this shot right here shows that it's an open mic night. I was curious who the other people on there are. It looks like the other people playing are the Chet and Trent Project, and something like P. Bacon and the Basshead, something like that. So I'd seen some speculation that these guys were like burnouts that kind of gave up music and went away. Well, clearly they haven't given up music, and they're still playing after, 25 years? And so, I don't know, to me that seems like they're still trying, they're still working. And I'm gonna call a little bit of BS, because I would argue that anybody who does anything for 25 years is gonna have something of a name. There's a guy in the Deep Ellum area of Dallas that I live in, the club area, who is famous just for always being there. He's a guy named Bob, and he just walks around on the street with a keyboard, and everybody knows who he is just because he's always there. So if you do something for 25 years, I think you eventually get something to happen for you, or at least get some kind of name recognition. So anyway, just a thought. All right, so this is our first look at the future. So this actually is more of a callback to the first one. Like, something that's always bothered me is the discongruity between the way they showed the future in the different movies. In Excellent Adventure, it was a bit more like this, where people were like kind of floating on the wall, if you remember. In Bogus Journey, it was totally different. Of course, you only saw a classroom, and the clothes that they wore were ridiculous. But this is a bit more of a callback to the first one. But if you look, around the building, it's like they're in a giant greenhouse with domed structures on the outside. Lots of domes in this one. This might be a Buckminster Fuller future. I feel like the color scheme and what they're wearing is pretty close to the way they were dressed in the previous ones. With Bill in blue and Ted in red. Bill in blue and Ted in red. Huh, look at that. But I want this T-shirt. It's clearly a Wild Stallions T-shirt. It's like a man with two stallion heads, clearly representing the two of them. And then on the back, it does say Wild Stallions on the back. All right, so this character, according to IMDb, is called the Great Leader. And this is by Holland Taylor. That's the actress in the center there. And these costumes seem to be a bit more reminiscent of the first film. There might be a little bit of retconning going on in terms of design, as I saw as I walked through this. But this looks a little bit more with the subdued colors, nothing glowing or neon. They had these weird pads and foam all over them in Bogus Journey. But in this one, it's a bit more traditional looking with long flowing garments and very subdued tones. And can we just get it out of the way real quick? Yes, they have both gotten older. They just have. I do want to give Alex Winter a little bit of credit, though, because the last time I saw him, pictures of him before they, got ready for this, he was looking a bit dumpier. And I don't mean that to be insulting. I mean, the dude's 50 years old. That's natural. That's going to happen. But it looks like he toned up and got in shape for this quite a bit. Good for him. And for those of y'all who have not been following Alex Winter, which probably is most of you, he actually has been a pretty respectable filmmaker in his own right, especially in documentaries. He's actually a pretty well-regarded documentarian. I also just want to call out the color scheme of the titles in this movie. There's a lot. It makes me think a lot of Thor Ragnarok right now. The very pastel and bright colors and lots of blues and purples, pinks even. I don't know if that's kind of a design trend in movie titles, but it seems like I've seen a lot more of this lately. So one more shot of them playing at this concert, whatever it might be. It almost looks like there's some kind of spiritual dancing figure behind them there. Or maybe it's just some kind of visual effect, or maybe there's something materializing behind them. I feel like there's something happening there. Then we get this sort of war room set here, and that person in the hat in the middle there, right in front of the globe, that's clearly the great leader that we saw earlier that Holland Taylor was playing. There's a red dot in California. I'm assuming that's San Dimas, because that's where everything takes place in this universe. But also, are there rings around this planet, or is this stuff that's orbiting the planet? Because you can see stuff like just above the pole over there, hovering above the planet. So I would think those might be satellites if that's what it was tracking. Does the Earth have rings at this point in the future? I don't know. Very curious. Okay, so there's this quick shot where they're kind of stuck in a giant traffic jam. I'm pretty sure this is not just a traffic jam, though, because there is a sign just behind them right there that says the end is near. So this is more of an apocalyptic scenario, whatever is going on here. But then something pops up, and you only see it for just a flash. There's only a couple of frames of it, but look at this. This looks like a Roman... Tell me if I'm wrong. Does this look like a Roman guard? And with a red cape and a one of those mohawk things on his head? Is that what that looks like? And then there's somebody like a peasant or a squire kneeling in front of him. So if that's what that is, if that's what I think it is, either there's some kind of time distortion where things from the past are showing up in the present, or maybe this is like a villain that's chasing them down from the past. But I don't know why a Roman legion person would be chasing down Bill and Ted, but that's what I'm getting out of this, is that there might be some kind of time breakdown and things from the past start popping up in the future. Okay, so again, a little bit of retconning that I was talking about. The antenna on the top of the phone booth looks a lot more like the one in Excellent Adventure than in Bogus Journey. And Bogus Journey has sort of like a dome thing on top, again, with a lot of fluorescence and glowing stuff. That whole movie was just filled with that. And the word station, for some reason. Everybody uses the word station for everything.
Station!
Station.
Station! Station!
Also, are they on a spaceship here? This looks like they're on a spaceship out in space with like pods all around. And that blue and silver deck almost has an R2-D2 feel to it to me. So this, I don't know if they're at their daughter's wedding. So they kind of juxtapose this with shots of their daughters. And the names of their daughters, by the way, Bill named his daughter Thea, and Ted named his daughter Billy. They named them after each other. How cute. But I don't know if this is like them playing some bad gig for weddings because they're down on their luck, or if this is like them at one of their daughter's weddings. I'm not sure. Also, you got the little cassette tape button or design on her overalls right there. Again, a bit of an 80s throwback. There's a lot of 80s throwback imagery in this movie. And also, I'm guessing this might be at the concert at the end, or maybe it's just before they play at the concert, and that's why she's so nervous about it. Okay, so in the beginning, in the first film, there's the Circuits of Time, and this is clearly a reference to the Circuits of Time, but they are not in, or this, maybe they're not even in this, but this is not a phone booth. This is some kind of orb, some kind of egg-looking orb thing. So I'm kind of wondering if they're traveling around in this egg thing because they got, that's like an officially sanctioned, because that looks newer. device to move them around, but maybe they had to like steal a phone booth later when they're trying to steal the song from themselves. Maybe that was kind of a behind the back kind of thing to steal that. I don't know. Of course, here they are in the circuits of time with the phone booth again. So, of course, the effects much better now. So I'm guessing this is the prison. This is them landing in the prison that you see at the end of the trailer because you got that barbed wire at the top. And of course, here they are meeting up with Death, William Sadler himself, the man. And I've been trying to read what is on the stuff on the wall behind him, and I cannot make out what it says, unfortunately. Obviously, there's the Wild Stallions jacket. So this almost looks like they did tour, maybe. They had some kind of following. I mean, he has a jacket and a shadow box on his wall, so that clearly is representative of something that was interesting to him, or a big part of his life. And that almost looks like a Rolling Stone cover to the left of his head that has Bill and Ted on it. And other, news articles and stuff. I can't tell what they're saying, but clearly there's like some things that happened with them that made news, and he hung on to it. But then you flip this shot around, and there's like some kind of just apocalypse going on back here. Maybe this is hell or something. I mean, you can see like a dragon flying on the right side of the screen there, and toward the middle at the top. But everything's on fire. This is a wasteland apocalyptic scenario that they're in for some reason. So I don't know if this is like Death's dominion. This is where he exists and looks on to things. You can see his scythe in the background kind of lit up on display, so it's not really something he's carrying around anymore. So I'm guessing maybe Death is in retirement, and this is maybe where Death retires. I don't know. Again, with those blues and purples and pastels, this color palette that's become so popular lately, and I think that's also a bit of a throwback color to the 80s. And then you got the buff Bill and Ted. I love that he has heinous tattooed across his stomach. Ted has excellent, Bill has heinous, and there's a Wild Stallions tattoo across his chest. I did take a closer look. Ted's belly button tattoo says Elizabeth and Billy forever. So Billy, his daughter, and Elizabeth, the princess from medieval England. So there's a couple of theories here. One is that what's happening right here is they're visiting themselves in the future after they have stolen the song from themselves and they wound up going to jail for it. My problem with that is these guys don't necessarily look older than them, but also the fact that they're so jacked tells me, or it makes me think that this is more like a parallel universe thing. And I was talking about it in the video yesterday. This is an interesting take on this, is if they've got to go find, if they've got to go into the future and find the version of themselves that made this song that pulled the whole world together and whatnot, it might be a thing of like maybe they were on the right track and then somehow they slipped into a different timeline and it split off into all these different parallel universes. So now they've got to jump from one parallel universe to another and find all these different various incarnations of Bill and Ted to try to find this song. And that's why at the end of this, when the guy says, did you like our song? So maybe they're going around and finding other versions of themselves in these parallel universes, trying to find a version that has this song that they could go back and play at this concert and reunite the world or whatever. That's my assumption about what's going on here. God, again, I want this shirt. I want this shirt so bad. If they don't put this on frickin' something online so that I can buy it, I'm going to be furious. So yeah, this is my current guess as to what happens in this movie. Is it starts off and they're kind of still down on their luck and haven't really made it. They get called maybe through that orb into the future and berated by the great leader as to why they haven't made it yet. And maybe it's understood that at some point after the events at the end of Bogus Journey, where they, this is the problem, is at the end of Bogus Journey, they do this thing over the credits where they show all these steps that happened after this big concert that they played that showed how they, changed the world moving forward. Maybe they did all that, but then suddenly something went wrong. Maybe sort of it is a parallel universes collide kind of thing. And so they meet up with this great leader and maybe they explain to them that, something went wrong and we're still waiting on you to do this thing. And maybe their whole way of life is at risk because this thing hasn't happened yet. And it's almost like in Back to the Future when he's looking at the photo and he's starting to disappear from the photo. Like there's an amount of time that this needs to be rectified by. So they're like getting onto them. It's like, you got to fix this, And they come up with this idea of like the only way that they can come up with this song. They've been trying for 25 years to come up with this song that's supposed to bring the whole world together and change the future. And they decide, hey, the only way to do it is to steal from ourselves. So maybe they find the old phone booth, and then they start doing this parallel universe journey thing, going around and meeting other versions of themselves and trying to find the right song. And by doing so, it winds up kind of breaking the circuits of time, and you start to see the Roman legion thing show up, and it creates this like apocalyptic scenario. And then one way or another they get hooked up with death again, and maybe he kind of walks them back from the parallel universe thing. There's still some questions, and this is only a teaser, but this is what I've ascertained so far. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Are you excited to see this movie? I still am, and I do think this is what 2020 needed. This was this is the only thing that can save us. Anyway, tell me what you think. Give me your thoughts in the comments down below. Be excellent to each other. Party on, dude. And I'll catch you later. Peace.